Hello Cancer and Cancer Rising. Welcome to your horoscope for the full lunar eclipse happening in Scorpio on the 15th of May for the Northern Hemisphere and the 16th of May for the Southern Hemisphere. This is the part of the process that you will see the effects of this shedding that we discussed 2 weeks ago when there was this solar eclipse in Taurus. This is the opposite end of the scale, and this is the section of life, the house that we're going to focus on and really start to unpick where this shedding may occur. Scorpio rules your fifth house of child's play, of the cosmic inner child, of cute dates, of fun, creativity, and self-expression. Now, to have an eclipse here is potentially a really positive thing. It's just a matter of how you look at this. If we think about what's on the opposite end of the spectrum, which is your 11th house of community responsibilities, of the greater good, of good fortune, but in a grander sense, in a sense that highlights the group rather than the individual. The fifth house does sort of the opposite of that. It really shines the light on you, your experience, and your offerings. Now, I'll remind you again that this month is a catalyst for what will continue to happen and evolve in your life until July 2023, which is when the nodes will shift and the ecliptical axis will move houses. I want to talk to you about the tarot cards that represent the points on the zodiac where this eclipse is happening. There's 3 of them this time. This time we have a really sharp T-square with Saturn. Saturn's in Aquarius, which is the sign of the greater collective. Saturn is the planet of restriction, of the rule book, the manual. In a low vibration, it can be oppression, it can be a kind of restrictive silencing, but in a higher vibration, it was really the knowledge that we accrue and the perspective that we can achieve in order to do things the right way. But let's start with the tarot card for 25 degrees of Scorpio, which is the moon placement for this eclipse. That's the 7 of Cups. The 7 of Cups is illusionary success. The 7 of Cups is the possibility of options. It's the moment where we fantasize and imagine what could possibly happen, but maybe the options are building up. Maybe there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things too many that are occupying your mind right now. And nothing's really been set in stone yet, and there's been no path that is the one to build on. Opposing that is the 7 of Pentacles, which is 25 degrees of Taurus. That, in a way, is a sort of opposition, because the 7 of Pentacles is that moment of having tilled the soil, planting the seeds, out in the beating sun, being completely exhausted, but almost dissatisfied at the fruits of the labor not having blossomed just yet. That sort of wondering, is this really where I need to be? How is my effort going to be in vain? I want this to grow. I have to wait, and that's sort of frustrating for me. The 7 of Swords is 25 degrees of Aquarius. The 7 of Swords is unstable effort. It's leaving truths out. It's sort of revealing something, but not everything. It's kind of being clunky with communication. So 3 kind of frustrating energies here in the tarot. To relate that to your astrological chart and this eclipse and that idea of shedding and releasing, I suspect that there's a dissatisfaction with where you are right now, or there's going to be a pressure cooker release of that. It's beautiful to want to serve the community. It's beautiful to feel a part of something that's bigger than yourself. But the idea of a round peg in a square hole, or a square peg in a round hole, is really showing itself to me here. I think that there's, in this shedding, in this release that the eclipse is going to bring for us, I potentially think it might be for the best. I want you to keep an eye out for this 7 of Swords energy in particular. So Aquarius is your 8th house, and that's regeneration, rebirth, that's transformative in its energy. It also talks about the idea of how we sometimes are indebted to other people, or we're beholden to their energy in some way. That could be through tax, through inheritance, through rental properties, through, the government and council, whatever it is. But it's kind of that idea of being contracted in some way to other people's energy. So to have that there, and this Seven of Swords energy, this sort of, sometimes it can be the card of the thief in a way. So what is being left out in these relationships for you, or what is being concealed from your knowledge? Think about that, and think about how that restriction, or that perceived restriction that you're feeling because of this idea of being held to something, how is that affecting your creative spirit and your individuality, your heart-led optimism, and how is that affecting your experience of hard work and investment and what you have poured a lot of your energy into for community? It's a really interesting T-square, and I think that for my Cancers, I really think that this is going to be a really positive shift. The eclipse is sort of out of your control, so don't try and maneuver or manipulate, but I really want you to be aware and keep your eyes and ears open, and over communicate when it comes to not understanding something, or when it comes to trying to get all of the information settled so you know what to do and you know the right step to take. Another aspect in the sky that's going to be affecting this time is Mercury. Mercury has stationed retrograde in the last couple of days, and when that happens, we need to go over everything that we are absorbing as far as information and messages and communication, and we need to be mindful of the way that we are projecting that stuff too. This is all really interesting to work with, and I think that it's going to be really constructive for you if we can keep our balance and if we can keep our cool with whatever crops up. I'm walking on eggshells here, but I'm going to be real with you, Cancer. So the three tarot cards that we just talked about are the traditional decans in the zodiac. That's the stuff that's written. That's how the tarot is linked and sewn into astrology. I read them. I also pulled you three separate cards as well, just for my Cancers, and just so Spirit can give me some extrapolation on this scenario that's tailored for you. 1, 2, 3 cards. The first one I got is the Tower, and that talks about that talks about an intervention from Spirit in a place that was built on unstable foundations. That talks about an absolute release of grounding. It's a destruction in a lot of ways, which is it's a pretty intense card, I will admit, and it's one to be worked with, and kind of perfect though, because it does really describe, it does illustrate what can happen at an eclipse. The second card I got for you is the Two of Wands, which is beautiful. My sissy Hank Shaw. Which way are we going? This way or this way? The action plan. Let's write this map of where we're going next. And the third card I got is the Ace of Swords, so the truth. So I think whatever's being left out in this Seven of Swords Aquarian energy with Saturn in your 8th, know that you hold the truth, that you've got all that you need, and no matter what is said, or no matter what deals are made, or what contracts are signed or broken, or whatever it is, the truth of your destiny is in your hands. So don't feel that you're disempowered by any changes that may occur during this period for you. One of my teachers recently described to me that how we work with squares, that sharp right angle of conflicting energies between the planets, so Saturn, the Sun, the Moon, that's the big bottleneck that's happening right now. One of the ways that we can work with this energy is to look at the opposing house of this square. So Saturn is in your 8th. The opposing house to the 8th is the 2nd, which is your house of talents and your ability to monetize and accrue wealth and your own security and how you can provide for yourself. So I think there might be some lessons in there for you to kind of meditate on over this next period of time. I think that there'll be some real innovation for you in the way that you consider your worth and your talents, and how that can be a source of provisions for you. Maybe it's time to be less beholden to the structures of debt, tax, council, all of that kind of stuff. Maybe it's time to, if this Seven of Pentacles energy is really being highlighted for you, this wait for what's going to happen next, and this effort being put in but nothing really showing of it, maybe it's time to really, if you're feeling that pulls from the eclipse, like just go with it. Maybe that's the time. This is the time. Maybe it's time to get your Two of Wands energy on and start writing that map for where to next. That could be something for you in this eclipse. It's all really big stuff, and it's positive stuff. I want to really remind you that astrology, the tarot, isn't a fate that we're doomed to. It's energy that we really can work with and we can use and we can co-create with. So think about the positive aspects of what an eclipse can bring. Think about the freshness, the change of a season in a natural sense. You know, it's like, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. It's probably a beautiful mantra for you for the next year when it comes to your community and your self-expression in that space. Don't let this tower moment knock you over. I'm going to leave this one here, Cancer. I'm trying to keep these short and sharp and concise. I hope that I've helped you with these messages. Do head over to my website, umaruby.com. I do offer private tarot readings via Zoom, and I can also read your natal chart and give you a roadmap to your soul if that's something that you think will be helpful. Much love to you. Full moon blessings, eclipse blessings. And I'll be speaking to you again on this podcast in 2 weeks for the new moon in Gemini, which will be a nice cooling off period and a nice moment for us to call it in and to start manifesting again. A bit of spell work is required after this storm, I'm sure. Love you heaps, big kisses, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye.